and welcome to Vantage this week. On this show, we recap the highlights of the week gone by, the biggest stories, the top developments and the newest trends. This week, Pakistan voted and stunned the world. Amid widespread reports of rigging, Nawaz Sharif declared himself the winner. People voted against the army, which was expecting a landslide victory in the national election as per usual. We bring you all the action. Also tell you what this means for Pakistan and the world. Meanwhile, Sam Altman is gearing up to make his next big bet. He's the face of the global AI revolution, the man behind ChatGPT. He's making a $7 trillion bet on chips. And this could shake up the global semiconductor market. We'll tell you all about it. Speaking of semiconductors, chipmaker Nvidia is on the brink of overtaking Amazon. Now, Nvidia and Amazon do not sell the same things, but market experts are making this comparison. We'll tell you why it matters. A Ukraine-born Miss Japan made buzz this week. She relinquished her title over an affair and showcased how beauty pageants are a problematic antiquity. We'll explain why. Also tell you how the sun is flipping poles, what this means and why you should care. All this and more coming up. Let's get started.
Muslim League Noon is the largest single party in the country today.
Clear your calendar, grab some popcorn and buckle in, because this weekend is going to be rocky. Pakistan's election has just delivered the mother of all surprises, a googly for the ages. And at the receiving end is the army, a seasoned batter who's seen it all. So who will prevail in this high-stakes contest? Let's look at the scoreline first. Nawaz Sharif's Pakistan Muslim League is at 43 seats. The Bhutto's PPP at 28. And now for the big surprise, candidates backed by Imran Khan at 57. Pakistan's National Assembly has 266 seats. So to form a government, you need 134. And Imran Khan is in pole position. But Nawaz Sharif doesn't seem to care. He visited his party headquarters a short while back. And Sharif says he has won this election.
Muslim League Noon is the largest single party in the country today after the elections. और मैं समझता हूँ कि हम इस मुल्क को भंवर से निकालने की तदबीर करें. हमने पहले भी अल्लाह के फजल करम से मुल्क को मुश्किलात से निकाला है और आज भी निकालने का एहतमाम कर रहे हैं. और मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूँ कि हम सब पार्टियों के मैंडेट का एहतराम करते हैं जिनको भी मैंडेट मिला है.
How about that? His party is trailing, but Nawaz Sharif says he has won the election. Well, that's Pakistani politics for you. Nawaz Sharif's plan is to build a coalition. He says he will reach out to other parties. But why is he celebrating prematurely? What exactly happened in the last 24 hours? Let's recap. Voting in Pakistan ended at 5 p.m. local time yesterday. Then the drama began. Pakistan's Election Commission began counting the votes. Most of us had the same expectation, an easy victory for Nawaz Sharif. After all, the army had played every dirty trick. Imran Khan was in jail. His party had lost its election symbol, the bat. Its top leaders were intimidated. So what could possibly go wrong? Well, late into the night, results started trickling in. And what did they show? Imran Khan's candidates in the lead. Most of them had contested as independents, and yet they were leading. Some trends showed Imran Khan's party, the PTI, crossing the majority, and that too comfortably.
It is quite apparent to know that Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaaf is leading on 125 seats by huge margins. That means in due course of time, we shall be in a position to form governments at the centre and in at least two of the four provinces.
The other side was in disarray. Nawaz Sharif himself was trailing from his seat. Most of his party leaders were nowhere to be seen. In contrast, Imran Khan's PTI hit the streets. Their supporters rallied outside polling stations. They refused to leave until counting was done.
From Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaaf, the electoral symbol bat was withdrawn. Our leader Imran Khan was jailed. PTI supporters were given a message that you cannot win. But still, PTI supporters did not lose heart. The result of today's polling will be all in our favor.
The PTI supporters, young youth,
if our leader is in jail, we are his lions outside, and we will fight until a lion is out of jail. And we want Imran Khan to be out of jail as soon as possible. And inshallah, we will still win.
So everyone began asking the same question. Had Pakistanis beaten the army? Was Rawalpindi's script unraveling? Well, it was too early to say. Once the early trends emerged, a few suspicious things happened. First of all, the Election Commission's website went down. People could not access it anymore. Then the counting slowed down. Suddenly, results were simply not being published. Then at 3 a.m. local time, the Election Commission called a press conference in the thick of the night, 3 a.m. After all of this, you would think that the Chief Election Commissioner would show up, at least give an explanation for what was happening. Well, think again. Another election official addressed this presser and he made two important announcements. One, the delay was because of the internet. Pakistan had snapped mobile services on voting day. Apparently, that was slowing things down. And announcement number two, the early trends were unverified, meaning the PTI's lead may not have been real. That's what the Election Commission officer said. Now, obviously, this sounds fishy because yesterday the Election Commission said something very different. They said the internet shutdown would not affect counting. So what changed in a few hours? Only they can tell us. But afterwards, we saw some worrying pictures. Soldiers deployed outside counting centers. Soldiers pushing away PTI workers. Even some footage of ballot stuffing. Multiple journalists and activists have posted these pictures and videos, but we cannot vouch for their authenticity.
मोहरा लाते हैं
जल्दी पास में चलानी भी है ताजी चाय पिला दो काम जल्दी।
Which brings us to today. Counting speed has improved compared to yesterday, but still the pace is slow. Pakistan's homegrown result transmission system is not working, so the results are being relayed physically, which means rigging is easier. The PTI has pointed out several examples. Take a look at this document. It shows results from a constituency in Lahore. The winner is Nawaz Sharif. But now look at the numbers and listen to this carefully. Around 293,000 votes were cast, 293,000. And how many were counted? 294,000. So where did these extra 1,000 votes come from? It looks like a classic case of rigging, and I must say, a poorly executed one. But even rigging can only help so much because Nawaz Sharif actually lost his other seat. He was contesting from two constituencies. One was in Lahore, the other was in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Thanks to magic numbers, he won in Lahore. But the other seat he lost. Reminds me of something he said on the campaign trail. Listen to this.
I love you too. If you love me, Nawaz Sharif also loves you.
Well, Pakistani voters have given the answer. They do not love Nawaz Sharif, not like they used to. He now represents a politics of the old, a politics that young Pakistan does not identify with. Many voters have openly called out the rigging.
हर काम पहले डिसाइड हो चुका है। यहाँ हम आवाम को ना सिर्फ हमारी आवाम के लिए हमें सिर्फ ना बेवकूफ़ बनाने के लिए सारा कर रहे हैं। मेरा छोटा सा एक है, मेरा वोट 14 साल से एक जगह पर रह रहा हूँ, मेरा वोट उन्होंने उठा के कोर्ट खुआया सही से उठा के उन्होंने कज़ाफ़ी स्टेडियम में फेंक दिया। मुझे अब ये बताएं, मेरा वोट 14 साल से उधर है और कज़ाफ़ी स्टेडियम चला गया, मैं किस तरह डालूंगा? जब उधर बताएं।
ये हुकूमत की नालायकी है जी, ये पास का रिजल्ट भी रात 12 बजे आ रहे हैं। ये तो लक्षण हमें नहीं नज़र आ रहे, कुछ भी कोई रिजल्ट नहीं है। ये
जो डिले कर रहे हैं रिजल्ट, तो ये तो मुतनाज़ा बनाने वाली बात है ना कि कल से हम टीवी पे देख रहे हैं कि कौन सी पार्टीज जीत रही हैं और कितना आ गया, हर कोई रिजल्ट बता रहा है। और अब जो कुछ चेंजिंग हो रही है, तब्दीलियाँ हो रही हैं और रिजल्ट को जितना ज़्यादा डिले कर रहे हैं तो ये तो मुतनाज़ा बनाने वाली बात है।
Well, it's not game over yet. The results still show Imran Khan in the lead, but the Sharifs are not giving up. Maryam Nawaz says her party, the Muslim League, will be the single largest party. She says Nawaz Sharif will give a victory speech once the results are in. He's already spoken. He says theirs is the single largest party. So did the tide change overnight? The Sharifs seem to think so. But don't expect this drama to end with the results. Just think about it. Early trends showed the PTI forming a government, but 24 hours later, they could lose. How would you react to that? If you're an Imran Khan supporter, you would be outraged. And by the looks of it, Pakistan has many of those. So this election drama is not ending anytime soon. In fact, it's unlocked a new crisis. Now, what does this mean for Pakistan and the world? More uncertainty for sure, but that's not all. This election changes many dynamics, both within Pakistan and outside. We'll look at the three biggest takeaways. What should you make of this election and the result in Pakistan? Number one, Pakistan's army has failed, at least for the time being. Look at everything that they did for Nawaz Sharif. Got his cases dismissed, brought him back from London, put his chief rival in jail, delayed the vote to help him campaign, and yet the public sentiment was against them. Let's be clear about that. The final results may tell a different story, but this was a vote against the Pakistan army, against its meddling in politics. And that spoils Rawalpindi's calculations, because this election was supposed to be a clean slate, a chance to move beyond Imran Khan. But now Pakistan is back to square one. PTI supporters are organizing rallies and protests. Cases have been filed against 30 of them in Islamabad, and chances are this number will increase. So the polls have plunged Pakistan into more crisis. They've busted the army's aura of invincibility. Takeaway number two, the election has shown the power of technology in polls, especially artificial intelligence. Imran Khan was arrested in August last year, meaning he could not campaign. His party was also barred from holding rallies, and Pakistani media was banned from giving him airtime. Now, normally that would kill a political party, but not the PTI, because they turned to technology. Imran Khan used AI to deliver speeches. They used deepfake. His party held online rallies. They overcame physical restrictions with a digital outreach. In fact, their social media game was on point. The PTI has more than 9.8 million followers on X. The Pakistan Muslim League, Nawaz Sharif's party, has just 2.5 million, and it's pretty active too. Whether it's posting videos from polling stations or reaction videos from leaders or even foreign media analysis, the PTI's online campaign was very Gen Z. And it could be a template for other leaders and countries. And finally, takeaway number three, the external dynamics. What does this election mean for India and the world? Well, it's a tough one. For starters, Pakistan is a nuclear power. It is also home to multiple terror groups, the world's terror headquarters, if you will. And it's on the brink, its economy. So instability here is worrying. That's the biggest concern for Western countries. That's also why they keep backing the army to make sure that the nukes are safe. But this election will put the West in a tough spot. On the one hand, the army is their ally. On the other hand, the rigging is blatant. So what will Western countries do? The United States has not criticized the internet shutdown. It says it was tracking the curbs, whatever that means.
We are concerned about the restrictions on the exercise of freedom of expression. We are tracking reports of restrictions on internet and cell phone access across Pakistan on polling day. And we, along with the international community, will continue to emphasize the importance of democratic institutions, a free press, a vibrant civil society, and expanded opportunities for political participation of all of Pakistan's citizens. But I'm not going to get ahead of any of the other official election results, so I'm not going to comment on this any further.
Well, let's hope this is a wake-up call for them. Western countries have long been guilty of backing Pakistan. They've armed Pakistan's army, bailed out the government every time it's messed up, and ignored their support for terrorism. Maybe now is the time to shut the tap, to realize what Western money is used for in Pakistan. It doesn't reach the people for sure. Instead, it is used to enrich the army, to crack down on voters and subvert democracy. Will the US impose sanctions on Islamabad for this? I wouldn't count on it. The Americans forget democracy when it comes to Pakistan. Just think back to the elections in Bangladesh last month. Do you remember the pressure from Washington, the scathing criticism? But with Pakistan, it's all very businesslike. So Western capitals need to take a hard look at their policy because the current one is wrong. India too needs to be on alert. A clean slate may have triggered hopes of a reset, but now all bets are off. Pakistan's army looks weak and cornered. That also makes them more dangerous. We also can't rule out domestic unrest. Imran Khan's party is not the only one complaining of rigging. Most opposition parties feel robbed. What if they hit the streets in protest? What if terror groups capitalize on the unrest? These are all real possibilities. Of course, there is nothing that India can do about it. The only option is to wait and watch and be on your guard. Now let's talk about Sam Altman, the face of the global AI revolution. In November, Altman was front-page news. He'd been unceremoniously sacked from OpenAI, a company that he created. Within weeks, he made a comeback. The entire saga was like a Hollywood blockbuster. There was corporate backstabbing. The board of OpenAI had turned on Altman. His departure led to a company-wide rebellion. Corporate giant Microsoft then made a power play. They offered a job to Sam Altman and practically everyone at OpenAI who wanted to leave. Soon, Sam Altman rose like a phoenix from the ashes. Within days of his sacking, he was reinstated as the CEO of OpenAI, and the shake-up only made him stronger. It was quite the story. He's now the undisputed champion of the global AI revolution. And with his newfound superpowers, he's gearing up to make his next big bet. A $7 trillion bet on chips, with the potential to shake up the global semiconductor market. The future of technology is chips and AI. The problem is there aren't enough of them. Altman wants to fix that by expanding production. You see, apps like ChatGPT run on special chips. And here's how they work. Imagine an office full of large stacks of paper. You're the manager. You need to sort out all these documents. You're looking for something specific and you must find it quickly. So you get a bunch of interns to sort out your stuff. They're keen, but they lack experience. They take a lot of time in sifting through the papers, but you don't have that kind of time. So you get more people to do the job, this time experienced ones, those who've done it before. And they prove to be more efficient. And that's exactly how AI apps like ChatGPT work. Chips are like the workers in office. Some can do a basic job and deliver slowly. Some have advanced skills and act faster. Some chips are designed just for AI. They're called GPUs. Graphic Processing Units, GPUs. Think of them as your experienced hands. They're more efficient. And the more such chips you have, the better and faster you can deliver. You can sort through more data quickly. You can reach more customers. And that's the goal that Sam Altman is chasing. If you cannot buy more such chips, make them yourself. That's the idea. Right now, Nvidia has the monopoly in the AI chip game. We told you about this company yesterday. Last year in September, Nvidia had 80% of the market share, 80% of the market share. Now, Sam Altman wants a slice of this pie. In fact, he wants to reshape the entire market. The plan is bold and ambitious. Last year, global chip sales stood at over $500 billion. By 2030, they're expected to touch $1 trillion. Altman wants to raise $5 to $7 trillion for his chip venture. So the proposed investment is 7 times bigger than what the market is expected to be. Where will this money be spent? To ramp up manufacturing and build infrastructure. Altman is basically proposing a partnership. He wants to bring together the top stakeholders in this space, the chip makers, the investors, and those who can power such factories. He wants to work with all of them. And what will be his role? Reports say he wants to be an investor. He'll offer money and set up the funds to build the factories and the chip foundries. And once these facilities are ready, the chip makers can run them. Now for this, he is looking to mobilize trillions. But where will the money come from? Apparently, there are potential investors. Sam Altman is said to have pitched the idea to the government of the UAE, to Masayoshi Son, who's the CEO of SoftBank, and to TSMC, the Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company. It's the world's biggest chip maker. The ask is for $7 trillion. Let's put that figure in perspective. Microsoft is the main investor in OpenAI, also the world's biggest tech company. Microsoft is worth over $3 trillion. Apple comes second, worth over $2.9 trillion. So together, Microsoft and Apple are worth around $6 trillion. Sam Altman is asking for $7 trillion. It is a fact that entrepreneurs thrive on taking risks, and there are no rules on how big is too big. As of today, this looks like a visionary project. Nvidia versus Amazon. It's a race that makes little sense on paper because these two companies are not rivals. They do not even sell the same things, nor are they in the same industry. But market experts are making this comparison. Do you know why? Because it's a sign of our times. Nvidia is a semiconductor maker based in the United States. Amazon is an e-commerce giant. Both companies were founded in the 1990s, but in the last 2 decades, one was a clear leader, and that's Amazon. Maybe not for long though. Nvidia is on the brink of overtaking it. Amazon has a market valuation of $1.77 trillion. Nvidia is at $1.73 trillion. Its shares are up 40% this year, 40%, imagine that, 40% up in just under 40 days. At this rate, it will overtake Amazon, one of the biggest companies of our times. What does this signify? What many experts have been saying for a while, chips are the new oil, especially artificial intelligence chips. Every major tech company is on the AI train, and AI needs very advanced chips. And who's making those chips? Mostly Nvidia. The company is set to make up 85% of this market. Just look at their list of customers. Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, Oracle, Tencent, Baidu, Alibaba, Tesla, ByteDance. Most big tech firms buy chips from Nvidia. So sales are through the roof. I have numbers from the last quarter. Nvidia's revenue was $18 billion. It tripled from the year before. And profits? Around $9.2 billion. That's 14 times higher than the year before. So Nvidia is on a roll. Which is why we are taking a closer look at this company tonight. It was founded by 3 American computer scientists in 1993. All 3 came from chip companies. One from AMD, one from Sun Microsystems, and one from IBM. Jensen Huang was one of the co-founders. Today he serves as Nvidia's CEO. The company first focused on computer video games. These games needed 3D graphics. So Nvidia made cutting-edge chips. It became their USP. Other chip firms were selling computing chips. Nvidia was selling graphic cards. That set them apart. That was their USP, like I said. In 1999, the company went public. The same year, they launched a new product, the GE Force 256. It was a major leap in 3D gaming. All these milestones caught the attention of Microsoft. They asked Nvidia to develop the hardware for Xbox. That's Microsoft's gaming console. It was a big deal for Nvidia. The company was paid $200 million upfront. Then came the 2000s. Nvidia started to diversify. In 2003, they collaborated with NASA. They began making chips for Audi cars. In 2007, Forbes declared it Company of the Year. So Nvidia had truly arrived. And around this time, they started focusing on AI. It was a bit accidental. Nvidia had put a lot of focus on parallel computing technology. Think of it as a multitasking feature for chips. The same technology is key in artificial intelligence. So Nvidia had a head start. Now we don't know why the company focused on this technology. Maybe it was foresight, maybe it was a business strategy, but whatever it was, it worked. Today, Nvidia is in pole position. They have a partnership with car maker Toyota. The plan is to use Nvidia chips in self-driving vehicles. But the crowning moment was in late 2022. That's when ChatGPT hit the market. Everyone wanted to know how it was built. Turns out, ChatGPT was built on 10,000 Nvidia chips. Soon, every tech firm rushed for it. They did not want to be left behind in the AI race, and that meant buying Nvidia chips. Of course, some of this attention has backfired too, because last year, the US government asked Nvidia to stop selling high-end chips to China. Washington said it was a national security concern. But for Nvidia, it was a blow because they had orders worth $5 billion from China, orders that they could not fulfill now. But looking at these numbers, their revenue and their profits, Nvidia is doing just fine. They have a borderline monopoly on these AI chips, and that is hard to beat. You see, chips keep evolving. They keep getting better with time. So by the time rivals match Nvidia, Nvidia will be 2 steps ahead. Hopefully. It's all about who has the head start. Also, who doesn't become complacent. So remember this company's name. It's not just a graphics maker anymore. It could be the foundation of the AI age. Just like investors in the stock market, there are 2 kinds of leaders, bulls and bears. What would you call Xi Jinping? If you asked him, he'd probably say he's a bull, someone who can drive the Chinese economy to newer heights. But his limitations stand exposed. There is panic in Beijing. Investors are fleeing China. They're dumping Chinese stocks. The loss so far is $7 trillion in less than 3 years. $7 trillion in less than 3 years. Last week, there was a sell-off. That alone led to a loss of almost $2 trillion in value. The problem is too big to ignore, and President Xi Jinping has finally decided to step in. He called a meeting with Chinese regulators to find a way to improve global sentiment about China and its worsening economy. The meeting was supposed to take place today. So far, we've not heard about the outcome. No big announcements yet. Earlier today, the news of this impending meeting lifted Chinese markets. But it has not impressed major investors. They seem to have run out of patience, and they're moving their money to India. We're talking about billions of dollars in investment in Indian stocks. Wall Street banks are placing bigger bets. There is a gold rush, and this shift is hard to miss. Investors prefer India over China increasingly because India has consistently proven to be the driver of growth, with China developing a serious perception problem. Now, it is no longer seen as an investor-friendly destination. Not just for foreign investors, but also for the local ones. They are unhappy, and many of them are venting on Weibo. Weibo, as you would know, is one of China's biggest social media platforms. It's like their Twitter or X. So here's what Chinese users are doing. They look for the account of the US Embassy in Beijing, and they start posting comments to it. These comments are basically criticism. They're slamming China's economic policies. But why do it on the US Embassy page? It's a way to escape Chinese censors, a trick that these people have devised. You see, when you post on social media, censors pick it up. But when you comment on someone else's post, there's a lesser chance of discovery, or so they think. It's a relatively safer space to criticize China, which is why they go to the US Embassy account on Weibo. It's being flooded by comments. On one particular post, there were over 100,000 comments. Let me show you some of them. This is what they're saying. Could you spare us some missiles to bomb away the Shanghai Stock Exchange? The Weibo account of the US Embassy in China has become the wailing wall of Chinese retail equity investors. These are comments by Chinese users. And do you know where they were posted? Below the picture of a giraffe. The original post was about wildlife conservation, but the comment section is filled with criticism of the Chinese economy. Well played, we say. These comments are also revealing. They show that a large number of Chinese citizens are unhappy with the meltdown in their markets. For 6 straight months now, investors have been selling Chinese stocks in large numbers. Last month alone, global funds sold Chinese stocks worth $2 billion. And they've not seen the worst yet. Experts say China's equity market is yet to hit the bottom. I have an assessment from Nomura. That's Japan's largest investment bank. They think China's economic dip, and I'm quoting, is ongoing and is likely to worsen. And what is the basis of this assessment? China's weakening economy, it faces multiple challenges, from a failing property sector to a contracting manufacturing sector. Last month, factory output declined for the 4th straight month. Manufacturing is clearly slowing down, and I'm not the one saying this. China's official data for a change shows the real picture. This sector is shrinking. And when you join all of these dots, it's easy to see why China is being called uninvestable. So investors are looking for alternatives, and they're narrowing down on India. 2 Wall Street banks have endorsed India, the Goldman Sachs Group and Morgan Stanley. They have a projection for the next decade. They say India is the prime investment destination. Goldman Sachs expects robust inflows into the Indian markets. Morgan Stanley believes, and I'm quoting, India will become the 3rd largest economy by 2027 after the US and China. And numbers support their assessment. Last year, the Indian stock market received some $20 billion from foreign investors. The momentum is clearly on India's side. Experts say Indian stocks are now overpriced. They're among the most expensive in the world. Look at the top Indian companies. Their shares are 27% more expensive when compared with the average prices from 2010 to 2020. So one can expect a price correction too. But the larger picture looks like this. More people are buying into India's growth story. The world is betting on India's rise, and the overall trajectory remains positive. What about China? Well, they have their task cut out. Short-term measures and assurances will not be enough anymore. They'll need concerted action to win back investors and reverse their decline. And the onus is squarely on Xi Jinping. Now let's talk about Iran, a country under heavy Western sanctions and caught in the middle of a volatile conflict in West Asia. Despite all the challenges, Iran remains an influential player in the region, practicing its own brand of strategic autonomy. Usually, its militia groups provide Tehran with crucial leverage. But now the regime has a new tool in its arsenal, a new strategic lever to pull. I'm talking about Iranian drones. They're becoming the weapon of choice for many countries across the world. Why? Because they're cheaper and they can inflict some serious damage. Our next report tells you about Iran's rising drone power.
The mighty US military is up against a new enemy. They're fast, often easy to detect, but when they are fired in large volumes, one of them can easily breach American defenses. This is what it looks like. These are drones made by Iran. Last month, one such drone attacked the US forces in Jordan and inflicted heavy damage. The capabilities of the drone left the Americans surprised.
There are still many questions, to include how the one-way attack drone could have penetrated the facility's air defenses, its point of origin, and which specific Iranian proxy group is responsible.
Experts say it was one of the Shahid drones. They became famous after entering the Ukrainian battlefield. The Russian forces have relied on them since the beginning of the war. Now, Iran-backed militia forces have been spotted using the same drones. Iran has a huge drone fleet, ranging from small lightweight weapons to large flying machines. Tehran's main weapon is this drone, the Shahid 129, also known as the AK-47 of Tehran. The weapon packs a punch. It has a range of 150 kilometers. The drone can carry multiple missiles and stay in the air for more than 15 hours. A few years ago, Iran upgraded this drone and developed the Shahed 136. This drone is also known as kamikaze. It has a range of over 2,000 kilometers and can carry around 20 to 40 kilos of explosives. The drone can fly into the target, crash and explode. These drones are cheap to make and easy to mass produce. One Shahed drone can be manufactured for as little as $20,000. Iran's drone program is not new. It began in the 1980s, but over the last decade, Tehran has made some rapid advances. All these drones come from one source, the Shahed Aviation Industries. This is an Iranian aerospace company and is linked to Iranian's Revolutionary Guard Corps. The company is believed to have reverse-engineered Israeli and American drones. How does it manufacture these drones? The information is limited, but going by some claims, Iran gets its supplies from a range of sources. The parts come from over 70 manufacturers spread out in 13 countries and territories and includes the West. Despite the sanctions, Iran has managed to assemble drones with Western parts. According to an assessment of Iranian drones found in Ukraine, over 80% of the parts came from American companies. Washington has used sanctions to put an end to Iran's drone program. But so far, the US has failed to make a dent or even minimize the damage they've caused in West Asia's battlefield.
Now let's turn our attention to Japan. It is in the grip of an ugly scandal. And at the center of it is a 26-year-old beauty queen, Carolina Shino. That's her name. Shino was born in Ukraine. She moved to Japan at the age of 5. She grew up speaking and writing fluent Japanese. In 2022, she became a naturalized Japanese citizen, and last month she was named Miss Japan, the first woman of European descent to win this title. But just as she made history, she became a target of online hate. Apparently, Shino was not Japanese enough to win the title. She decided to look past this. She celebrated her win, saying, and I'm quoting, that she really had been accepted as a Japanese person. But the drama was not half finished yet. Just 2 weeks after the win, a Japanese weekly magazine published an expose. It said Shino was having an affair with a married man. Do you know what happened next? Shino accepted it, issued a public apology, and relinquished her title. And no, this is not a story from history. It's happening as we speak in 2024. You could say, what are beauty pageants without popcorn-worthy drama? And you may be right, but this is not just about the drama. This episode is all sorts of problematic. For starters, Shino was berated because of her Caucasian roots. Having a Japanese citizenship was not enough. Meeting the pageant criteria did not cut it either. You had to look Japanese. Secondly, having an affair is not a criminal act. In fact, Japan decriminalized adultery in 1947. We are living in 2024, yet women must apologize for having an affair. What about the man? By this logic, he too is a villain for cheating on his wife. Yet only one detail is public knowledge about him, and that is his occupation. The man is a doctor and an influencer. His name and age stay protected. Meanwhile, Shino faces the brunt of this affair. She's being abused online. Her name and reputation are being tarnished. So much so that she had to give up her title. And that's the thing with beauty pageants. They propagate a problematic, puritanical culture. Did you know that the success of pageant winners could be measured by the length of their hair? Not making this up. This year, Miss France was quote-unquote violently criticized for her short hair. In 2018, Miss Ukraine was disqualified because officials found out that she was a divorced mother. In 2006, Miss USA was criticized because she liked drinking. The co-owner of that pageant was Donald Trump. He publicly forgave her. He even considered giving his permission so she could pose in the Playboy magazine. Basically, showing off your body is fine as long as the man in charge is giving his blessing. Which brings me to problem number 3. Beauty pageants as a whole, they should have no place in our world. They were first conceptualized in the 1850s. as a marketing tactic used by newspapers to sell cosmetics. Today, these pageants are a true embarrassment. They parade women around in bikinis, pit them against each other to find the shiniest object in the room, as one of them wins the honor of a sash and a tiara. Some may say it's more than that. Pageants claim that they offer major scholarships, but this has long been debunked. Pageant scholarships usually offer a fraction of the money they claim they do, plus women who participate spend more money than they make, and sometimes they pay a much higher price. Last year, several Miss Universe Indonesia contestants said that they were being sexually abused by organizers. In 2019, Uganda offered a proposal to hold a Miss Curvy beauty contest, a beauty pageant to put its women on display in order to attract foreign visitors. Such examples are everywhere. So beauty pageants can modernize themselves all they want to. They can add categories of intelligence, if they like, on top of attractiveness. But at the end of the day, such pageants are an antiquated reminder of what we do not want for the women of today. They're retrograde and demeaning. And I repeat, they should have no place in our present, let alone our future. Our last story tonight is about Taylor Swift. If you haven't been living under a rock, you must have heard about her. She's an American pop star, a pop culture phenomenon. Taylor Swift is lifting economies and causing earthquakes. Colleges are teaching about her, and Joe Biden wants an endorsement from her for 2024. It shows you how big she is. But with great fame comes great criticism, especially when you're a woman. Taylor Swift may be loved across the globe, but she's always under great scrutiny. And you can't dismiss it as a cost of celebrity. This is misogyny. Our next report tells you why the world loves to hate Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift, it's a name that resonates globally, across generations, genres, and even continents. She just won Album of the Year at the Grammys. She's on a whirlwind world tour, and she's unstoppable. Taylor Swift started as a country singer and songwriter. She's now a global pop icon, capturing the minds and hearts of millions. Yet the admiration and accolades are not enough. Somewhere in between all this lies a paradox. It's the fact that the world loves to hate her. It started early in her career. With every album, Taylor Swift offered something different. A new genre, a new theme, her journey as an individual. Yet for many, that's the sign of inauthenticity, of her showing different colors, of not being her true self. In 2016, it was like the whole world hated her. A feud with Kanye West made everyone believe that her career was over. Her reputation was down in the ditches. But Taylor made it back, and how? She reinvented her image. She released new albums. She powered on. And then came the latest Eras tour. Her massive global tour spanning countries and continents. It's catapulted her into never-seen-before fame. It caused earthquakes. It's lifted economies. World leaders want her to tour their country, and the global economy is thankful to her. But even at the height of her fame, the jibes continue. And the biggest is about her love life. Taylor's songs talk about love, betrayal, friendship, and everything in between. But the focus is only on one fact, how she dates men and writes about them. Media has called her a serial dater. Tabloids speculate which breakup she will write a song about next. It's blatant villainization, something that's never associated with men, even when they write love or heartbreak songs, the likes of Ed Sheeran, John Mayer, and Bob Dylan. But the scrutiny doesn't just end there. Another cause of grief is her private jets. She's criticized for the number of flights she takes, the places she goes to, for not being a climate champion. Much of it is her fault, but the criticism is often limited to just her. Plus, her presence always seems to spark a debate, whether it's on the football field or at the ballot box. The Democrats want her endorsement. The Republicans call her a left-wing conspiracy. And football fans seem to want to burn her on the stake. All for what? For voicing her public opinions and showing up at NFL games to support her boyfriend. The whole problem might be that Taylor Swift is a successful woman in an industry often dominated by men. Did someone say double standards? Swift is now in her own legion, but the sexism still doesn't end. She has battled sexual assault, fought against rampant misogyny. From her love life to what she wears, everything is dissected, everything is scrutinized. In some circles, it's just cool to hate Taylor Swift. But whether you love her or hate her, there's no denying one thing. Taylor Swift has left her mark both on the music industry and pop culture. And whether haters like it or not, Taylor Swift is here to stay.
Our next story is about the sun. It is flipping out, quite literally. Scientists say the sun's poles are about to flip. Just like the Earth, the sun has two magnetic poles, the magnetic north and the magnetic south. On Earth, the poles rarely change their order. They flip once every hundreds of thousands of years. But on the sun, it is a fairly regular occurrence. The poles flip about every 11 years. They last reversed in 2013, and you don't have to be a math genius to know that the next reversal will take place this year. Scientists say it will be an epic transformation. But they also claim that it can be terrifying for us. So how will this shuffle impact the Earth? Should Earthlings be scared?
No matter which school you went to, you were bound to learn three things by rote. 1. The Pythagoras theorem. 2. Mitochondria are powerhouse of the cell. And 3. The sun is a big ball of fire. This story is about that last bit. Because this year, the ball of fire is quite the hot topic. For starters, a total solar eclipse is predicted in April. This happens when the moon crosses paths with the sun, blocking it from view. It is a highly anticipated event for scientists. But they are concerned over one thing, fact that the sun itself is getting ready to flip. Its poles are about to reverse. Here's how. Just like the Earth, the sun has two poles, the magnetic north and the magnetic south. Every 11 years, the polar magnetic fields weaken. They go to zero and then emerge again with much more energy, but with opposite polarity. So the North Pole becomes the South and vice versa. This is a regular part of the solar cycle, unlike the one on Earth, where the poles flip once every hundreds of thousands of years. The sun's poles last reversed in 2013. Even those bad at math will know that the next due date will be sometime this year. Now this may sound scary, but the flip is not a big deal. What comes before the flip is, leading up to the pole reversal, the sun has intense magnetic activity. Right now, the sun is more active than it's been in over a decade. During these periods, the sun displays extravagant fireworks. There are solar flares or mass ejections. Scientists call them solar storms. Think of them as explosions. They hurl charged matter out of the sun, and it is shot across the solar system at a speed of hundreds of thousands of kilometers per hour. These particles can reach Earth in typically 3 days, and the results depend on what happens next. Remember, we told you about the Earth's magnetic poles? That's because the Earth has a magnetic field too. Usually, this field acts like an umbrella. It deflects the storm, much like rain bounces off an umbrella. But sometimes the storm is so strong, it rips through the Earth's magnetic field. And the results can vary. On the positive side, solar storms can result in vivid auroras, which is why this year the northern lights will be stronger than they have been in at least a decade. But in some scenarios, solar storms can be the perfect storm for disasters. They can disrupt communication satellites and GPS in space and disable electrical grids on the ground. The possibility of such a hit is rare, but it can happen like it did in 1859, when the Earth witnessed the Carrington event. It was the worst solar storm in history. It disrupted telegraph lines, hindered messages, sparked fires, and auroras were witnessed in Mexico City. It was a shock event, and if a similar incident occurs now, it could cost economies trillions. But in most cases, this active time for the sun is not dangerous. It has more positives than negatives. For starters, scientists have an opportunity to dig deep into the sun. Secondly, you can start planning your next vacation.